Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dallas Live, and I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469 258 7652. Today we have a featured guest, Nelson Trout. Nelson Trout is a singer songwriter, having written over 300 songs and released four full length CDs. One of his compositions is a state theme song for the state of New Jersey and is a great example of how someone can turn their life around and find a whole new joy in living after recovering from drug addiction. Nelson is also the author of a book called Blood on the Ceiling, The Awesome Calamities of Addiction and the Miracles of Recovery. It is available now as an ebook and also print on demand at Amazon.com, Barnes& and Noble, iBooks, and other major book distributors. Last month, the book was released as an audiobook at Audible. Nelson, welcome to the program.
Robbie, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you.
All right, very good. Nelson, let's talk about your life other than addiction. Your life as a singer-songwriter for a couple of minutes. Where you were born, what did you do in the early part of your life, what are you doing now in your career, and where are you going from here? What's in the future for you?
Well, Robbie, I'll start with the last question. In the future, I just had another book released. The title of that is Raven April. That's a psychological thriller. That's a novel. And now we'll get back to my music career. I had a 30-year music career in the South Jersey, Atlantic City, Philadelphia area. And I also wrote theme songs for radio programs and television shows around here and things like that. And then I worked for 25 years at a regular job, working on aircraft engines.
What do you mean? What do you mean by aircraft engine? Are you a certified mechanic?
No, as a matter of fact, I was a painter.
Oh, okay, okay.
I was a painter. Paint. And after that, they closed and moved down to Texas. So I was out of a job. So I got a job with the city of Millville, where I live. And it's there that I had an accident. I fell out of the truck and I broke my back and I broke my neck. And that's the time that I started taking opiate-based painkillers like Percocet and things like that.
Oh, okay.
And I got dependent upon them, and that's what made me leave and go to rehab to break the habit.
Well, I downloaded your book from the Amazon as a Kindle version, and the book is a pretty good book. I could not put it down. I read cover to cover on the very first sitting. Okay, and you have covered not only about yourself but also a number of other folks that were drug addicts, and there are some problems, and some of the calamities were really bad, and the story is no holds barred. I mean, you showed in your book how horrible it is for some of them, almost all of them, and also there is some hope is that some of them were able to recover, like yourself, and be able to go on and lead a productive life. What I would like to talk about, today, we will talk on the four segments. On the first segment, I want to talk about your life experiences, in how you got addicted, and what was the result of your addiction. When did you actually able to figure out, hey, listen, I am now addicted. I got to do something about it. What kind of rehabilitation you went through, and what is the final result? So let's talk about this on this first quarter of our interview. Go ahead and tell me. You just told me, you just alluded to the fact that when you had an accident at work site, you had you broke your back and your neck was broken, and you started taking narcotics, and from that point on it started. Is that correct?
Yes, Robbie. After my accident, for the pain, I had a lot of pain and things like that. The doctors prescribed me painkillers, Percocet, oxycodone, things like that. That I really didn't need at the time.
Uh-huh.
But some people, such as myself, can get addicted to these things, and I didn't know that, and I
No,
wound
not
up.
some, and I would say that vast majority of people under right conditions, like what you conditions that you had. See, I had a lot of experience as a scientist in this field, especially painkillers. And I understand that if you give anybody, even if they don't have any predisposition to getting addicted, but if you put them on this kind of drugs for a longer period of time, sooner or later, most likely sooner, they will get addicted to it. Okay, so
Yes,
you got addicted to it. Then what happened?
well, yeah, you're right. They're very easy to get addicted to. Well, I kept trying to quit taking them on my own, and I just couldn't do it because it's a very painful to have a withdrawal for me is very hard. And so I knew I couldn't do it on my own. And so one night at midnight, I decided that I had to make a decision. So I called a drug rehab facility, and they got me in there the next day. And I'll tell you, Robbie, as soon as I walked in there, being a writer, as soon as I walked in the doors for the first time, I knew I had to write about it to let people that have never been inside of a rehab to tell them what goes on and what goes through people's minds and how they wound up in rehab. And that's why the book is so brutal and so honest, because I kept it real. And that's why it got published, and it's doing well, because it not only helps people make a decision to get into rehab or help a loved one to get into rehab. This book was written for them, but it had to be real, and so they could understand. And you always have to understand that you're not the only one.
That's
Many,
right.
many people of
That's right.
all
Now,
different.
what I noticed in that book is you did not sugarcoat any of the experiences of either yours or other people who were admitted to those rehab facilities. You said that in your book you had twice you went there, one for a short period of about 15 days and then a second time around. So why did you go two times?
Oh yeah, well that was extended care. I went for 14 days to one facility. I can't mention them because of anonymity. But
Okay.
that was up north. That was up north, and then for an additional 35 days, I was flown down to a rehab for extended care in Florida, and they really helped. Both rehabs helped. In the first rehab, I had to go through a couple of days of withdrawal, and I'll tell you, and detoxing, and I'll tell you that's a very, very difficult thing.
I do have some experience from the other side, from the clinical side, how the detox works and the horrible effects of detoxification and what the patient goes through. Because they were taken off this, most of them go through, almost all drugs. Pretty much they go through some sort of seizure and severe pain and addiction, sweating and all kinds of things. Um,
Right.
I mean, it's
That's why.
horrible to watch it.
Yeah, that's why if you are taking them and you try to quit, don't just try to quit cold turkey, because it could kill you. Like you said, it could give you seizures, and it could give you it can stop your heart. So
Correct.
you have to do it. Either have to go away to rehab, or you can wean yourself off of them. If you talk to a doctor and tell him the exact truth, he will put you on a program to wean you off of them. Um, and if anybody out there, this book was written really to help people, and it's
Uh huh.
helped thousands of people, and I'm very proud of that.
Oh,
As
good.
a
Very
matter
good.
as a matter of fact, in the back of the book, there's a phone number, a hotline, that anybody that feels like they're having problems, or they have a loved one that's having problems. There's two phone numbers in the back of my book, Blood on the Ceiling, and I can tell you the numbers now.
Yeah, go ahead and tell our audience what is the number.
They're 800. 662-4357.
Now this number, this is a what is this number for? Detox?
This number is a hotline that'll help you find a place to go if you or a loved one or somebody is having problems with addiction. There's a lot of information in the book about things like that, but that number there is nationwide. That'll get you can call that from any place in the country.
Okay. Yes,
And
you know, coming back to the treatment and addiction, that is towards the later part of the whole story, the whole thing. At the early part, you start getting addicted. Now, there was one question that came to my mind: is there any predisposition to addiction? For example, when reading through your book, one thing that I noticed is most of the guys who came there for addiction had either physical, emotional, sexual, or psychological abuse when they were young children or in their teenagers. Now,
yeah,
there is a small percentage where they came from a nice, loving family. Father and mother didn't have addiction. They were not alcoholics, but that's a very, very small percentage. But the vast majority of the folks that I noticed in your book were pretty much had some kind of emotional, physical, or sexual or psychological trauma that they suffered at the early age of their life. Uh,
you are exactly right. Most problems like this start in childhood, as a matter of fact. And some people believe now that have been studying this that addiction is a disease, and through genetic testing, you can find out if you're prone to go
uh,
towards addiction for
uh,
things that have, people go for drugs to forget things, to forget bad things that happen to them in their lives.
right.
And you're so right. So many of the people I interviewed 100 people, and I think 34 or 35 wound up in the book. And it's just incredible some of the things that they went through before they finally came to realize that they had to get into a rehab or go to AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
They're very good to go to if you'd like to stop drinking. There's NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous, uh, and there's places in every town and city has an AA organization that you can get in touch with. No matter where you live, you can find an AA. But like you said, most of the people that wound up in rehab had gone through some kind of trauma as a child or as a young adult.
Yeah,
And
that was a common theme that I noticed in your book. Um, you know,
yes, a lot of them. I didn't write this too much in the book, but a lot of the females that were there and males had been sexually molested as children, or they had been around a lot of drug abuse, or they've been around a lot of violence, or they've been bullied, or they've been put down. You know, and like you said it perfectly. That they most of them have been through some kind of trauma.
right.
It's very true.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I noticed that is a very common theme there. Now, the next question I have for you, the name of the book, Blood on the Ceiling. I know why you came up with this name. Can you tell our audience why you came up with the name, especially the girl that you interviewed, and what happened to her, and how the blood got on the ceiling?
Oh yeah, sure. I came upon this title when I was interviewing a young girl, and she was telling how she was giving herself a needle, a mixture of heroin and speed, in her bedroom, and she got a clot in the point of the needle.
Mm-hmm.
So she took it out and tried to push the clot through, and she pushed the clot through, and along with a lot of blood. And when she was telling me the story, she said there was blood on the ceiling, and it just struck me right there that had to be the title. As a matter of fact, on page 10, in the second paragraph, you'll see that's where she says it.
Yes,
page.
I read through it. You know, it's right. It says right there that when she pushed the plunger through the barrel of the syringe, you know, to get the cloud out of the syringe, you know, it just splattered all over. It went through the ceiling through the fan that was spinning there, and then there was all blood all over the ceiling.
Right.
Yes,
And I thought, I thought the title would catch some people's attention, and also it's just like all the book. I made sure that everything was true, and when she said that to me, when I was interviewing her, I couldn't believe it because I said to myself, I said that's got to be the title.
absolutely. Great title, a great book. The book is available at Amazon.com as a Kindle version. And also in the book, Nelson is talking about the drug addiction hotline 800 662 4357 that you can call from anywhere in the US. And also, he talks about the Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous. Well, you know, the first 15 segments just passed by before we knew it. I know there was one song that I liked. You know, I got the collection of all your songs, by the way. And the one song that I liked, even though it's, you know, it may not have been played before in our show, it's the battle. When did you write this song, The Battle?
Oh, the battle!
Yes.
I wrote that song many years ago because there was a record company that was looking for songs about addiction. So I wrote the
Okay,
battle,
hold
and
on, hold your thought, hold your thought. Here's what we are going to do. We are going to play this music, okay, and then when we come back after the break, after the music and commercial break, you are going to tell our audience all about this song. Ladies and gentlemen,
okay.
you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. Let's play the song, The Battle, and then we will be right back.
I fought a long losing battle with the bottle last night. Held my ground for the first few rounds. Thought I would win.
Nelson,
Yes, I can't hear the song.
you may not be able to hear it, but our audience will be able to hear it. Okay, okay. So
Pardon?
our audience will be hearing it. They are hearing it right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Losing battle with the bottle again last night. At first I came out swinging like a champ, bobbing and weaving like Muhammad Ali. And when the jukebox played, I danced. Then I staggered once and got knocked down twice, seeing stars in the neon lights, and fought a long losing battle with the bottle again last night. And as the battle rages on, my life is starting to look like pages torn by an aimless wind from an empty book. As the battle rages on, it was a knockdown, drag out your memory kind of fight. Whiskey landed a left hook and cold beer crossed with a right. And your punch fell hard on my broken heart that already had two black eyes, and fought a long losing battle with the bottle again last night. And as the battle rages on, my life is starting to look like pages blown by a shameless wind from some tragic book. As the battle rages on, I fought a long losing battle with the bottle again last night.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. You are listening to Nelson Trout, and the number to call is 469-307-1642, 1642. All right, Nelson, you may not be able to hear the song because the way it is set up here, but our audience heard it. I heard it. It talks about the long losing battle with the, losing battle with the bottle rages on, and you also talked about jukebox and Muhammad Ali. How did they fit into this?
Can you repeat that, Robbie?
Oh well, the song is a great song. This is a fantastic song.
Well, thank you.
It also I heard some lyrics, and I'm not good at these lyrics, but you also talked about jukebox, and also I heard Muhammad Ali. How did they fit in?
Oh, well, they just fit in the song. It was a descriptive, very descriptive lines. They were very strong lines.
Uh-huh.
It helped to get the song published.
Okay.
And how it just worked with the song, and we went into the recording studio and recorded it, and it came out great. So
it's a great song. It's a really fantastic song. Okay, now let's get back to the next portion of our segment. In that book you talked quite a bit about yourself, a little, but also can you tell us, because I want my audience to hear at least one or two stories of other people. For example, the story of the girl who, used the syringe to splash the clot into the ceiling, and then that's how you came up with the blood on the ceiling. But some of the stories, and I remember one person, one boy, and his father died, and it was heartbreaking for me to read that story. His father died, his mother married another fellow, and he had already 4 kids. I mean, there are so many different stories like this, and unfortunately, the stepfather abused him, and I guess one of his stepbrother sexually molested him. And I can imagine if somebody goes through that type of a trauma in their young life, they're not going to have a good time when they grow up. They, instead of fighting this, they probably felt that they themselves are not good enough. They felt that they deserve it or something like that, and then they go deeper into depression. Is that how this whole thing works out?
Exactly. Yeah. Depression is a big part of it, and people take pills and they drink and things like that to cover because they're depressed about something very traumatic that happened usually back in their childhood. Remember, like the one kid whose father used to punish him by making him drink hot sauce, and then he would beat him with the belt. He would make him go to the store and pick out the belt, and he'd make him go to the delicatessen and get the hot sauce, things like that. And that turned him to drugs because he wanted to escape those memories and those thoughts. And like you said, that's what happened to most people. Most of the stories in this book, I know they seem totally incredible, but they're true, and they're the things that happen. And and also in the book there's a lot of success stories too.
Yes, they are.
Most of the stories, I take you through the hard times and some of the incredible, unusual things that these people went through. And usually, at the end of the story, they came through and they kicked the habit. But many did not kick the habit. Many people couldn't do it. And I talk about how we are as a society. It's becoming very prevalent to be addicted to something, and you see every day almost on television where a famous star dies from
overdose,
from addiction, from overdose,
Right. Now, in your book, you talked a few times about that you being a functional alcoholic or a functional drug addict. Explain to your audience what do you mean by that?
Well, that means that you can be drinking every day and actually you would actually be technically an alcoholic, but by the same token, you do your job. You're a good family man, a good husband, a good wife, a good worker. You do all these things, and so you're functioning in society properly. But by the same token, behind closed doors, you are, an alcoholic or a drug addict. But
So basically, you are fooling yourself because others might have noticed it, because other
oh
family
yes,
members might have noticed it, saying that wait a minute, he may be functioning, but he has a deep-seated problem. Is that what you find in your case?
well, yeah, you fool yourself. You're right, and I did that for many years because a lot of my friends, I was a baseball coach and very athletic. I was one of my hobbies was shark fishing. I used to fish for sharks, and a lot of these guys that I hung around with were you know they were alcoholics, and some of them were taking some drugs, and I got tied up with them, and that didn't help. So I just go right along with them. But by the same token, Monday morning we would be at work, so we were actually functioning, but we are still alcoholics. So we are.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so now one of the thing that I also noticed, you said you actually alluded to it, that most of the people have some kind of a genetic predisposition to addiction, either drug or alcohol. And
Right.
you also said that there's one other thing that was fascinating. So I wanted to ask you, before you became an addict or alcohol or drug addict, um, were you have any kind of obsessive compulsive type uh, indulgence, that you were obsessive about something? Do you have that kind of a feeling, or did you act out or anything like that?
Yeah, I knew when I first started drinking beer when I was about 17. I knew that I liked it too much,
Okay.
and I would drink every day.
Okay.
Also, there was you, you spoke of earlier about genetic disposition towards it.
Uh-huh.
A lot of researchers now and a lot of people are finding out that it's a hereditary, and they're calling it a disease.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hereditary disease, and a lot of people have it, and it's a very bad disease to have. It really is.
And you don't know when it's going to strike either, because depending upon how what circumstances you are in. That's very interesting. Now, why do you think you in your case, is there any other reason? I mean, is there any family, were you abused when you were a young child, or is there anything like that? Because I know
No,
some of the other.
no.
Okay.
I came from a really good, a normal family,
Uh-huh.
but I must say my father would drink beer every single night and take the medication called Librium, which is a narcotic. So actually,
Librium is actually you given to you when you were going out of alcohol, when you were when you were withdrawing from alcohol, right?
yeah, because what Librium?
Yeah.
Yeah, normally that's what they give Librium tape for. But my dad would get it, and he would take Librium plus he would drink every night. So
Wow.
that could be part of my predisposition coming from that. So when you watch your father drink every night,
Right.
you grow up thinking that's the thing to do, and that's what happened to me. And
Well,
I don't blame my father for my situation. I really don't. But I didn't understand. I did not realize I was becoming an alcoholic until later in life, because, like I said, I always functioned. I was always writing. I had a band. I wrote a lot of songs for, different record companies in Nashville. I was a very busy, functional guy. Plus, I had a real job,
uh-huh.
and I managed my son's baseball. I taught my son
Uh-huh.
guitar lesson. I mean, I did everything, but by the same token, I was drinking every single night, and I had to face the fact that I couldn't do that anymore, and that I was an alcoholic. And once you face it and you realize that you're not alone. I mean, when I was in rehab, I met some famous people that everybody that's listening to us right now would know right away.
Oh, really?
I can't
Okay.
I can't mention their names. They're famous people.
Yeah, really. I mean, we don't want them to be mentioned here either. So, but
No, no. See, all the names in the book, Blood on the Ceiling, all the names in that book that I have in my hand right now are they're fictitious names. They're, you know, in
right.
other words, if somebody's real name might be Bill, in the book I might have changed it to Ed.
Okay, okay.
So nobody knows. You know, so we keep the tradition of anonymity because it's very important.
For a drug addict, it's easier for them to pretty much um, hide it from others to some extent. I actually in your book you were talking about Crystal, the drug counselor who was actually an addict until the prisoners rat her out, right? That she's a junkie.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But
They noticed it.
yeah, go ahead.
They noticed that she was a correctional officer type thing, and you know, on her break she would go out and smoke crack, and then
but
she would
but
come back.
the addicts knew very well what she's up to. But
Yeah,
what she was, yeah.
the prisoners, who a lot of them were addicts, that they figured it out, and they told her superiors, and that's how she wound up in the rehab that I was in. That's how I got to know her. And I thought her story was interesting, so I put it in the book.
Yeah, that's fascinating. The book is a very good, very excellent book. It's available at Amazon.com, and you can also, ladies and gentlemen, go to the website www.bloodontheceiling.com. And now that website is active, right, Nelson?
Yes, www.bloodontheceiling.com.
Okay.
From there, you can order the book at Amazon, or you can go straight to Amazon. Or you can go to Barnes and Noble or eBooks, anything. It's available on all those. Most people have been getting it on Amazon, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Wherever it's easiest for you to get it. And
All right. We have to, Nelson, we have to take a break. We are on the second segment of this. We are coming to a conclusion on this. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469 306 1642, 307 1642, 307 1642. And we will be right back after the commercial break. Nelson, please stay on the line.
Yes, sir.
Teach me patience, teach me to speak with words so full of truth anyone can receive. Treat me gently, treat me fairly. Well, I'm alive, but I say just barely. We've spent days and nights going round and round. We're getting so high and then coming down. Weeks and weeks before we even got food, and you were the only one who ever understood. Nobody else knows the addictions I face here in this place. You know my fall from grace. Nobody else made me feel the way you do, and now I'm back here trying to save you. Time to make all the wrongs I've committed alright. I need some answers to all these questions. I've tried to put it off, but my destiny beckons. I didn't want to go, but I had to get some help. I was cared for by people who helped get me well. Hate to see you this way, so deep in denial. But I don't judge you, baby, you're not on trial. I know what you're feeling, cause I've been there before.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469-307-1642, 1642. We are listening to Nelson Trout. Nelson Trout is a singer-songwriter, having written over 300 songs and released 4 full-length CDs. One of his compositions is a state theme song for the state of New Jersey. Nelson, welcome back to our program.
Yes, sir, Robbie. I'm back.
All right, very good. Okay, now...
You know, Rob,
yeah, go ahead.
Robbie, I wanted to mention to your listeners. Number one, I'd love to have them call in if anybody's got a problem. But you know, I got an email the other day, actually yesterday, where a woman bought 2 copies because she's going to give them as Christmas presents to 2 people that she in her family that she thinks has an addiction problem, which I thought was nice. A good idea, because this book will help you understand, you know, what addiction is all about and what you can do about it. And you know, and so she was going to give it to 2 of her. I think they were nephews for Christmas. So
yes, absolutely.
And plus, if anybody wants a signed one, they can email me at nelson.trout@aol.com.
Okay.
And then I'll give them the information. You know, and I can sign a book and I'll send it out to them.
Okay, so here we go, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to get the book autographed by Nelson Trout, you know, send them an email, nelson.trout@aol.com, and also you can, you know, go to the bookstores and find the book. I think it's a great Christmas gift or a holiday gift. If you find that in your family, relatives and friends having similar problems, and if you want them to read it and see how others have recovered from this terrible situation, it's a great book, a great read, and it's a great holiday present. It's a great book. Nelson,
Thank you, Robbie.
yeah, most welcome. Nelson, coming back to our third segment, you know, the time is flying by here. Okay.
Oh yeah, well, you know, we've covered a lot of ground, and you know, the best thing to do is, like you said actually earlier, is the book is a good, easy read, and it can help people that are you know in some kind of addiction of any kind. It can really help them, and it can help, you know, friends and loved ones too. So that's why so many people have bought them as gifts.
Well, the book is you know, the book is a must read because it is brutally honest in terms of context and language. Now I want to ask you, Nelson, on a completely different direction. I want your opinion on this this particular and serious matter. There is also a lot of talk about legalizing drugs. You know, if you go to Europe, especially Switzerland, then there is a place called Needle Park where you can freely exchange drugs under the supervision of the police. I mean, what is your opinion? What is your opinion on legalizing all these drugs?
Well, I don't believe in just legalizing any drug. I believe that there may be some worth to maybe just having it for, you know, that you can get it from your doctor. I think there's a couple things but I'm not even sure of those. So right now, I would say no.
Well, that is, listening to you, I understand if you legalize drugs, then what you are doing is you are giving death warrant for a number of young people who already have this quote-unquote your disease of genetically, transformed diseases, where they're just going to get this drug, get stoned, and die. That's it. That's how it's going to go, right?
Yep. That's right. And as far as Needle Park goes, that's a terrible thing. I've seen people go through withdrawals and detox from heroin, and it's terrible. And also, there's a lot of drugs out there that are hard. like if you try to get off of them, you will have withdrawals so bad that you'll so that's why it's good to go to a doctor or go to a rehab, because they have medication that they give you while you're going through your detox to make it easier.
Right, I
That's
read
why
about in your book about the combination of alcohol and Xanax. That bad combination, and the withdrawal would be awful, right?
that's a that's the worst detox that there is. So you should go if you go to a rehab or even a detox or a hospital and tell them that you want a detox, they can give you medications that'll get you through it without you dying from a seizure or a heart attack or something like that. That's the
You
blood on
know,
the ceiling explains all that, and
some,
I have
yeah,
I have to say.
yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that the two rehabs that I was in really helped me a lot, and I was kind of scared to go because it's a scary thing to just leave your home and go to a place that you've never known about and try to change your entire life. And but but it was fine, and they know how to take care of people. They're very kind. They're gentle. They don't let you suffer. If you try to quit on your own, you'll go through a lot of pain and anguish. And it's better to go to a rehab. And and there are free rehabs too. The state-run rehabs are free. If you don't have insurance, or if you don't have the proper insurance, or you don't have the money, you can get into a state-run rehab. So if anybody out there wants to get into a rehab but they don't have any money, just call for information or find out somehow, or call that hotline that we gave out earlier, and you can find a state facility as close to your house as you can, as the closest one to your house if you'd like, or you can go further away. But you can get into those for free. So I wanted people to know that they're not.
Yes, the hotline number is 800-662-4357. Now, I want to shift away from another topic. Sometimes you find that the doctors themselves are not the ethical ones, and sometimes they ruin their patients and ruin their life of their patients. The greatest example of this is Michael Jackson. He was addicted to propofol. Propofol is a very strong central nervous system anesthetic, and it's used only in surgery, and the man was unable to sleep, and his doctor actually not only prescribed it to him, but also he kept propofol in his own home. And propofol, I have worked on propofol myself as a scientist. I know how dangerous that is. Even a dust of propofol can knock you out. Now,
well, on the Blood on the Ceiling website, there's a picture of Michael Jackson's body after he was found. It's kind of gruesome, but and also a picture of Whitney Houston. That's on the website.
These are two sad cases where,
we just
unfortunately, Go ahead.
And then, as you know, in the back of the book, there's a list of famous people that died from overdoses. I think there's 66 of them.
My goodness.
Yeah. Do you remember reading the list when you read the book?
I did not read the last part of the book because I didn't get the time. But I know that whom you are talking about. There are quite a few. Like River Phoenix, for example. There's a whole bunch of them, whole lot of them.
I've got a list of 66 in the back that everybody will know their names, and that just gives you an idea of how prevalent the situation is with the heavy duty painkillers. But sometimes you actually really do need them, like after surgery or something like this. What you're looking for is to make sure that you don't take them longer than you have to.
Correct.
Take them as prescribed. Don't take more. And when you're ready to come off of them, talk to your doctor, and he'll help wean you off of them, or he will. Doctors are a great information about where rehabs are and things like that too. So, when you try to do it yourself, it's hard. A lot of famous people that we know of, like Brett Favre, the football player.
Right.
He was addicted to Percocet. Rush Limbaugh, the radio guy, he was addicted to them. So they're
OxyContin.
very easy to get addicted to.
Right. Now, coming back to you, Nelson, do you have any brothers or sisters? Or you
Yes,
don't?
I have I have two brothers.
And how are they? Were they in the same situation, or they were spared from
No,
this
well,
calamity?
one of my youngest brother was in my situation, even worse, and he finally got off of them. He was a school teacher, and they sent him to a 3 week rehab center, and he's been fine ever since. And my other brother is a preacher, so he's he stays pretty clean.
Oh, so it looks like God has spared him. Very good. Listen, we are coming to our end of third segment. I have never had an interview where things are moving at this fast pace. Now we have heard about all the bad news, and the last part of our segment, I want to talk about the recovery and success stories, and because there is hope, and I
Oh
want
yes,
Nelson to tell all our audience when we come back, what is this
yes.
hope, how you can achieve this hope, and what do you have to do to get your life back together. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469 307 1642, and we will be right back.
I've dealt with my ghost and I've faced on my demons. Finally content with the past I regret. I've found you find strength in your moments of weakness. For once I've at peace with myself. I've been burdened with blame, trapped in the past for too long. I'm moving on. I've lived in this place and I know all the faces. Each one is different, but they're always the same. They mean me no harm, but it's time that I face it. They'll never allow me to change. But I never dreamed home would end up where I don't belong. I'm moving on. I'm moving on. At last I can see life has been patiently waiting for me, and I know there's no guarantees, but I'm not alone. There comes a time in everyone's life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. RC. The number to call is 469 307 1642. We are talking to Nelson Trout, whose best-selling book, Blood on the Ceiling, Awesome Calamities of Addiction and the Miracles of Recovery. Nelson, welcome back to our last segment.
I'm glad to be back, buddy.
All right, okay, good, good. All right, now, we talked about the calamities. We talked about all the problems and everything else associated with, and some causes and reasons, and perhaps, some excuses. But the most important part of our program is, once I have never been to a rehabilitation center. Fortunately, I was spared from such problems, but I totally understand how this can affect someone and how their life can be ruined, and how some people they are prone to this type of problems because of the trauma and abuse or neglect that they received when they were growing up. Nelson, tell our audience, what is there out for them? Tell us all the potential rehabilitation centers and help and doctors and Alcoholic Anonymous or all other help that is available to those who are addicted or trying to get out of this addiction.
Well, I'll tell. All I can say is every one of those is very good, and also if you realize in the book that most of the stories at the end are success stories. As a matter of fact, chapter 4 is the title of that chapter is Success Stories, and there's 5 really amazing success stories there in that section, and that's what it's all about, trying to get people to get help, because I know from personal experience it's almost impossible to do it alone. But there's so much help out there, and going to an AA meeting or an NA meeting is a wonderful thing. Getting into a rehab is a great thing, even if you could just get into a 5-day detox, because that way you have help from doctors that know what they're doing. They can help you through it without having so much pain and anguish. So it's very difficult to try and do it yourself. So in my book, Blood on the Ceiling, you'll find out all that information, and also you'll find out that they're not all bad endings. There's most of the endings, most of the stories in the book are happy endings, and that's what we're looking for to help people. That's basically why I wrote the book, to try to get the word out there and open people's eyes, and so they can go get help if they need it, or one of their loved ones or friends that may need it. And I've helped a lot of people, and I'm very proud of that.
Excellent. You see, those who are addicted to any kind of drugs or alcohol or any other drugs, you should read this book, because when you go to the last part of that book, in the chapter 4, where he's talking about recovery and miracles of recovery and success stories, you have to read each one of those, because those 4 stories are great inspiration for even for me, even though I'm not an addict or anything. But I read through their life, and man, these people have gone through. You see, one thing that I have always noted, but with myself, I think I didn't become a drug addict or even tried it because I was extremely afraid of getting arrested and going to jail.
Well,
Okay,
that
pretty much kept me out of that scene, because I'm much more afraid now. Naturally, if you are abused as a child or had a psychological or physical trauma, going to jail is not as bad, because you have gone through worse than going to jail. Correct?
Correct.
So therefore,
And
for them, getting addicted is probably a very good escape, and an excellent escape for them to forget their fears. So now I understand, after reading through your book, why that a guy like me who had a normal life and normal upbringing, and my reason for not getting addicted to drugs is because going to jail was a hell, or at even the thought of going to jail. Because now, one other thing that I wanted to ask you about is the drug addicts are not really, when they get into this addiction, they're not really worried that much about getting arrested or going to jail, because they have experienced a much worse trauma in their life. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, it absolutely is correct. And I know we don't have much time left, but
Hey, we have time. We got another 7-8 minutes. Go ahead, and the rest of the time is you. Go ahead and tell us whatever you need to say.
well, I can tell you that with me, when I finally went into a rehab, I was addicted to 4 different drugs.
Oh,
And one of them was alcohol, and alcohol is definitely a drug, no matter what it doesn't seem like it, but it's a drug. And I was addicted to alcohol, Xanax, Percocet, and pot, all 4.
my goodness.
And from going into the rehab and how they got me through my detox, and I stayed there for 14 days. I just have to thank God for places like that, because I don't think I could have done it alone. And then, they suggested that I go down to Florida to a bigger rehab, which was for extended care, because I had been doing it for so long. And that's where I went. I went down there, and I got to tell you, Robbie, that it saved my life. And then I went into a halfway house for 4 months, where they came in and they keep an eye on you, and they come in and check on you, but you're basically on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And they drug test you, and they alcohol test you periodically and things, and that really helped a lot. And then I went and got my own apartment in South Florida, and I really liked that. And then I eventually moved back up north here. So it's quite an amazing thing, and I'm glad you had me on, because this book will help a lot of people, and that's what we're worried about. You're very fortunate that you never had that predisposition towards addiction. You're a fortunate man.
Well, I mean, don't congratulate me yet. I have other problems, so
Yeah,
okay.
well, I agree with you.
Well, it
I
maybe
don't want
not this, but none of us are perfect. By the way, no, I'm not coming here and telling everybody I am perfect. Absolutely not. You know, we will not go into my problems, but this is not a problem. That's about it.
But you're right. You're right. Nobody's perfect,
Yes.
because I call addiction the great equalizer, because when I was in rehab, I might have, there was a bunch of young kids, and there was people all the way up into their 70s.
Uh-huh.
There was people that didn't have much money, and then there was wealthy people, and there was all the other people in between. That's why I knew I had to write this book to get the word out and to let people know what it's like, the things that the things you need to do to get in there, and that if you have an addiction problem, to see somebody, to call that hotline number, or to call the nearest rehab center near your house, or call the state for state-run rehabs. Like if you live in Ohio, you can call the state of Ohio, and you can find out where their state-run rehabs are, and that's what I try to do in the book. I try to encourage people to get help, because it's a lot better than being a slave to these drugs.
Absolutely, yes.
And
So if you have this problem, addiction, alcohol, drugs, etc., the hotline is 800-662-4357. 800-662-4357. Nelson, one other thing that I noticed, I have a lot of friends who are in the artistic field, singers, songwriters, actors, actresses, in drama and all these fine arts. Looks like there is more addiction in that particular group. Any idea why that is?
yeah, the people that are real creative and things like that, they're not sure why, but they know that they have more of a tendency to be towards addiction. Famous people like songwriters, singers, actors, people that are very creative. They tend to be more predisposed to addiction, and they're not sure why. They think it might be hereditary, but it's a definite. You're absolutely right. It's definitely, people like that are more susceptible for some reason. Like me, I'm a very creative person. I'm writing my third book now. After all the years of writing songs, I'm a very creative person, so I have to watch myself, and to make sure I don't fall back.
Well, we very briefly touched on your latest book, the novel Raven April. You said it's a psychological thriller, and does it have anything to do with addiction, or is it totally a different genre?
Yes, although it is a novel, the name of the book is Raven April. You can also get that at Amazon or Barnes and Noble, or go to ravenapril.com. That's RAVENAPRIL.com. And often although it's a fictional psychological thriller, all through the book, there is, there's drugs in there too, and it's that turns out to be, a big mistake. But it's because I don't want to give too much of the book away.
No, 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 no. Now you know what we have to do. This is already published.
Oh yeah, it's already published. It's already out there.
It's out there. Okay, here's what we need to do, Nelson. If you don't mind, you should come back after the holidays, and we should talk about that book. Now, I will read only up to the 50% so that I cannot spill the beans, right?
Well, go ahead and if you go to ravenapril.com.
Okay.
There's a beautiful website there, and it tells you quite a bit about it.
Okay, I would like to get you back on. So we have pretty much come to we have pretty much come to conclusion on our show here, and I really thank you, Nelson, for joining us and telling our audience, if they or their loved ones are suffering from any kind of alcohol or drug addiction, they should immediately call the hotline 800-662-4357, and also go to Alcoholic Anonymous or Narcotic Anonymous. And the book, which is a fascinating book, it's a book that you cannot put it down once you start reading it. It's called it's called The Blood on the Ceiling: Awesome Calamities of Addiction and the Miracle of Recovery. Nelson Trout is not only recovered from his addiction and leading a normal, calm life now, he's also a great singer-songwriter. Has written more than 300 songs, and one of his compositions is the theme song for the state of New Jersey. Nelson, it has been an honor to have you on our program. We would like to have you back, and perhaps you can join us after the holidays. What do you think?
Well, yes, sir. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. You're a fine man, and I just hope people go to. The best thing to do is probably go to Amazon and just type in "Blood on the Ceiling," and if it's for you to help you yourself, it'll help. But if you see a loved one or a friend that you're concerned about, you should pick up this book, and it'll straighten things out for you, and it'll help you help somebody else. And that's what it's all about.
Well, that will be the last word for this program. Ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to Dallas Live. I am your host, Dr. R.C., and we will be right back. Nelson, please stay on the line.